Hello, we are in module 4 of the mathematics course, and in module 4 we will look at the fundamental concepts that drive financial prosperity and economic decision making. So in this module 4 we are looking at simple and compound interest, and we'll illustrate how they impact various sectors of life. Okay, so let's introduce. By introduction, interest. What is even interest? Interest is the cost of borrowing money or the reward for saving it. When you borrow money, the cost of it is interest. Or when you save money in the bank, what is added is your reward for saving. So interest and compound interest, or interest generally, is the fee charged by a lender to a borrower for the use of asset or the income earned on an investment. Understanding interest is crucial for managing your personal finances, making informed business decisions, and analyzing economic trends. So in interest, you will come across what like principal, interest rates, and even time. Principal is the initial amount of money you borrow or you invest. That initial amount you borrow or the money you invest is called the principal, while the interest rate is the percentage charged by the lender for the use of assets or paid to the saver for depositing money. They also talk about time. Time is just the duration for which the money is borrowed or invested. Now, simple interest. There are two types of interest. We have simple interest and compound interest. For simple interest, it is calculated only on the principal amount of a loan or deposit, and it does not take into account any interest accumulated in previous periods. So it makes it the most straightforward form of interest calculation. The formula is principal times rate times time, where I is the simple interest, P is principal amount, R is the annual interest rate and is a decimal, and time is the duration. For example, if you borrow $1,000 at a 5% simple annual interest rate for 3 years, the interest can be calculated as thus: $1,000 times the 5% is 5 over 100, which is 0.05. Therefore, it will be $1,000 times 0.05 times 3. At the end of the day, your interest will be $150. So your total repayment becomes your principal plus the interest, which is 1,000 plus $150, which will give you $1,150. Simple interest provides a clear and easy way to understand the cost or return of money over a fixed period, and is used for short-term loans, bonds in some cases, however, and even basic saving accounts. Then compound interest, which we usually call the interest on interest, is calculated on the initial principal, which also includes all of the accumulated interest from previous periods, unlike that of simple interest. So this reinvestment of interest makes your money grow at an accelerated or exponential rate. The formula for it is amount is equal to P, bracket open 1 plus R over N, then T, where A is amount after time T, P is principal amount, R is annual nominal interest rate, and N is number of times the interest is compounded per year, and T is the time in years, and is majorly applicable in long-term investment. Let's take this example. For instance, if you invest $1,000 at 5% annual interest rate, and it compounded annually for 3 years. Now, for the first year, your principal is $1,000. So when you put into the formula, at the end of the day, you will have $1,050. So what you have for the amount you have for year 1 becomes your principal in year 2. So $1,050 starts year 2, and at the end of the day, at the end of the year 2, you have $1,102.50. Okay, so that becomes the principal for year 3. And when you do it finally, the total interest earned will be 157.63 US dollar. You can see it as against 150 if it were to be on simple interest. So what are the application of interest? I know you can relate to this a lot because we are talking that this relates to a life of borrowing and spending, because we talk about that it is applicable to managing personal finance. So as you have income and expenses, or you try to go to the bank to get a loan, or you save your money in the bank, this is what most persons, if not all, do on daily basis. All right, so this is more familiar. So interest is applicable in business. So you want to go and take a loan from bank, or you want to invest, or you talk about how to plan your financial life, interest is applicable. So in the business world, interest is a fundamental component of virtually every financial transaction, from managing your debt to generating returns on capital. Understanding interest rates is very important for strategic decision making. For instance, you can make use of interest when companies borrow money for expansion, operations, or working capital, with interest rates determine the cost of debt. Even investment and returns. Businesses invest surplus capital to earn interest, maximizing their exponential asset growth. Okay. Also in financial products, interest rates influence everything. Anything you go to the market to buy, is it from mortgage and credit lines, anything to saving account, whatever, there are always interest on them. And central banks use interest rates to control inflation and stimulate or slow down economic activity. So interest rates are economic indicators. Now, interest also goes beyond managing finance. We can also apply the concept of interest in sports analytics, agricultural planning, and even tech investment. Why typically associated with finance, the principle of growth and decay, mirroring simple and compound interest, extend to different fields. Like I mentioned, in sport analytics, modeling athlete performance improvement over time, factoring in training regimens, or injury recovery. All these are applications of the concept of interest. What of in agricultural planning? If you want to predict crop yield growth based on fertilization schedules or disease spread to optimize harvest, this is a form of compound, applying the principle of compound interest. What if you want to project user-based expansion, viral marketing effects in tech, or hardware depreciation using growth models? This is similar to compound interest. So in scientific disciplines, for instance, we apply interest. The mathematical models of exponential growth and decay are directly analogous of compound interest. Is it in population dynamics, where biologists use exponential growth models similar to compound interest to predict how populations or species will increase or decrease over time based on either natality or mortality rate. Natality rate means birth rate, and mortality rate means death rate. Maybe you want to consider how bacterial colonies multiply under ideal conditions over time. Or what of in radioactive decay, where physicists make use of exponential decay models, to calculate the half-life of radioactive isotopes that are crucial for carbon dating and even medical application. Maybe you want to determine the age of an ancient artifact based on carbon-14 decay. All this is based on the application of the concept of interest. All of in health. In epidemiology, public health experts use these models to predict the spread of infectious diseases. Understanding how a virus might compound is reached within a particular population.
For instance, if you want to predict the number of new infections based on current rate, so we make use of what? We make use of interest. You can see that interest goes beyond finance. So simple interest is linear and predictable, while compound interest is exponential, driving significant growth over time, especially in long-term investment. So you can see that when you hear simple and compound interest, is more than just mathematical formulas, because they are foundational principles that govern growth and change across finance, science, and even everyday. Thank you for listening.